what else was I gonna say to that? I yeah, I just think that I just don't think that it's something to. I think spirituality also is something that could be invited into the social experience with that person. So when an individual is, so for instance, one of my things that I would really love and I'm working toward trying to do, and one of the reasons why I moved to San Francisco is that I want to set up being a chaplain. I refer to myself as a queer chaplain or a chaplain or of another sort, where I actually would be set up in a STD clinic, a gay men's health center, like kind of center within the Castro, and to be there as a spiritual person who is available to help a person through that experience. So not everyone's going to want to talk about God or spirituality or whatever when they're getting their genitals checked out for disease or what have you. But other people and some but other people might be open to that, and in some ways connecting with somebody's spirit might actually lead to better sexual health outcomes. That's my personal understanding. I believe that the closer that I get to, that I've gotten to God, and the more spiritual I become. One, the queer I've become, the more femme I've become, and the more willing I'm able to express my fullness. But I'm also able to have more healthier, better sexual experiences that ultimately lead to less STDs, or if I do get STDs, that I get treatment immediately and I take care of them, and it's not laced in shame, and it's not laced in some sort of like unhealthy space. Yet I can be honest with myself and check in with myself and say, hey girl, like is this an issue? Is this like what's going on with yourself here? This is kind of not in alignment. So I think what I'd love to do is to be able to be in a space in which you might be going for your STD check, and you could you always get questions asked about to try to identify depression, other kind of outside ailments, those sorts of things in a medical kind of setting. And so why not do some sort of a spirit check? And so that's something that I want to try to work on developing, is this idea of like, how can we, like, how's your spirit? How can we check into somebody's spiritual self aspect and help that part of them, and how will that then help help them in the other parts of their world, whether it's the sexual health, whether it's mental health, whether it's in addition to, not in place of, but in addition to these sorts of things, so that they can actually work better, maybe for them, or that they can utilize better. So yeah, I think there's a lot of fear in bringing the aspect of spirituality in conversation with certain people, and I think that's very valid. I think it's very important. You have to be really mindful about it. But I think that it's something that we should find a way to do that, and I think that it's important that it be probably the right person, and the right person in the right space. And I know for me, as a trans person who shows up in the world in heels and makeup and sweaters off her shoulder, and like, but I just shaved a beard, and often a beard, and like, so like, I think there's something about a person like me with other people like me who maybe brings up this idea about spirituality, that it's kind of a safe or okay thing to do, but it's not. Yeah, there's just too much drama and trauma that. So I think part of that is just being mindful about the spaces that we're in and how we impact the people that we're in that space with, in whatever role that might be. I hope that this is something that is maybe thought-provoking, at least, and or encouraging. I think that it's really important for people to continue to kind of understand themselves and understand how their experience with the world and things that have gone on, and how that kind of can impact the way that you're in relationship and how you provide your services, or how you make some sort of judgment or idea of somebody else's experience. So I think it's really important to kind of begin to work with those things so that we're not putting those experiences onto other people, partially because that's not good for that other person, but it's also not good for you and your growth and your understanding. Like, the more you can begin to see the difference in others, then like it just like expands my world, at least. But also to not be afraid to invite the right spiritual people into a community building or social work environment, but just being mindful about who it is, why they're there, and how is it going to impact the people like there. But I just feel like the spirit is a challenging place to address, and a lot of people, especially people who feel like they've been harmed or they no longer have access to safe spiritual spaces, whether it's religious or non-religious, but I still think it's important to I guess invite that part of a person into their development and their growth as a community, as an individual, as a part of a group of people. Yeah, I feel like I might be. It's interesting talking to nobody. So yeah, I'm excited at the idea of spirituality and social work being talked about at the same time, and for people to experience social work, like just as an individual, as well as the people that we work with, the people that we are aiding in life, in a way that elevates us. I identify spirituality as anything that lifts us into who we are, or lifts us. Something that, causes us to rise out of our situation, to rise out of our circumstances, to elevate our understanding, or so anything can do that for us. And I think it's about setting that intention of what is it that can elevate me. And I think in spiritual spaces and spiritual people, that's their intention. So they're kind of the experts to kind of potentially help people, deal with that aspect of themselves. But there are very worldly things that can also elevate and lift a person's spirit in a way that animates their body to get a more fulfilling result in life. So I think that we're doing a disservice, and many times just the way that we show up can be like the biggest thing that we can do for the people in the world around us. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. And thank you. Good luck with your experience with the intersections of spirituality and social work. I really don't think that they're two separate things. But others may experience it that way, and that's important to, I think, keep in mind. All right, bye-bye.